And that's when I told the dragon to go. Hey, dungeon fans! Haha, yes, I'm streaming now. Welcome to the Liching Hour. Tonight's our party's first level adventure, and this is not your run of the mill first level adventure, that's for sure. But before we get into that, in dungeon news, who took my double stuffed Oreos out of the cooling pits on level 2? Not cool? I'm going to find those Oreos. We've got the list of summer activities here. I know everyone's excited about that. Sign up sheets for all of them will be available on levels 2, 3, 4, and 7. I'm kidding, not on 7. Do not go to 7. Confirmed activities are Hide the Goblin Tournament on level 2. I'm still the reigning champ, so practice up. Oh Hell Nah Bone Burying on level 3. Dan's coming back with Dan's Shield Painting Studio on level 4. We got a new thing called Let's Eat Kevin live action role play on level 5. This is a one-shot event, folks, because we only have one Kevin. So attendance is limited, so sign up quick. We have looks like Dirty Dancing classes on level 6 with the Ogres. And finally, until further notice, all fanny packs will be checked at stairwells to every level, including the swirl pits on level 4. Okay? I'm going to find those Oreos. Viva la dungeon! Okay, so where are we? What are we? What are we doing here? Our first level adventure is called Intrigue at the Court of Chaos. It is created by Dungeon Crawl Classics themselves. It is a adventure designed for level 1 characters. And let's see, where did we leave our party last? Let's recap. As you might remember, our party came shooting out of a huge hole, riding the wave of a tsunami out of an underground sea on a boat, a magical boat, an unmanned except for themselves magical boat, out into the ocean, where they may have easily starved to death on the seas, but they took it upon themselves to do their best with the oars and everything that they had in the boat to row themselves to shore, and found themselves not but a few miles south from the village of Damp Moss, where some of them were some of them called home. There on that beach, they kind of divvied up the things that they had, everything from treasure to their sanities, and the things that meant something to them just moments before, during this huge epic kind of adventure that took them down deep into this underground, this ancient keep, to this starless sea, where they met a resurrected chaos lord and were able to defeat it and then escape with their lives. That could change a person, I believe. Let me pull up, I gotta make sure I pull up chat here so that anybody joining, just so you know, if you're watching and you want to join in, I'm going to be doing a lot of talking and some rolling, but you are more than welcome to pitch in, speak up in chat, and we will work together to craft this story. So, it's been 6 months. Where are these guys? We've got a few people from our original group of 0 level characters. They were peasants. They were people who were going to this ancient keep to try to find their friends and family. Some of them succeeded. Some of them kind of succeeded. Some of them never came back. Where are they 6 months later? Let's start with Snope, the dwarf from Partridge Quarry. He and Meg, the elf, were both from Partridge Quarry. They entered the keep with 2 of their other friends, Bird and Tom was searching for his mother, who had been taken, and they were along to help Tom, because Tom wasn't the smartest person. He got himself in a lot of trouble all the time. So they were all very good friends, and they came to help Tom. Tom did not make it. Bird did not make it. And to Snope and Meggle's dismay and heartbreak, they had found, at the last moment, they had found Tom's mother, but because of the climactic kind of battle with this Chaos Lord and them rushing to the ship to get away, they could not find her on their way back to the ship. So she is, in their minds, lost forever as well, along with Tom. They walked themselves back. These villages, there was Damp Moss. The characters were from Damp Moss, Partridge Quarry, and there was 4 towns actually that all surrounded in different varying degrees, all surrounded this ancient keep. There was Damp Moss, Partridge Quarry, Midwater, and what was the other one called? Did I just say everybody's from Damp? It's Damp Moss, Midwater, and Partridge Quarry. I guess the guys from Fairy Deep all perished. That's right, they did. They all died. There was another town. So Snope and Meg walked got themselves back to their village. All these people, from the things they endured from the first, these are just regular people who banded together in a little mob, went into this ancient keep. They met beastmen with the heads of snakes. They went down into the depths and witnessed, they didn't know at the time, they still didn't know, but they had witnessed a god replaying this horrific rite, and they were attacked by skeletons and watched their friends died in front of them. And then there was the tentacles that came out of the lake, and there's so much that after all that trauma, they still, each one felt a spark light in them in some way, shape, or form. They were changed forever by this event. When Snope and Meggle got back, things just weren't necessarily the same. For Snope, he felt the call of home. He was a dwarven miner. In Dungeon Crawl Classics, when you play a 0 level character, you typically play 3 or 4 of them all together, and they all have occupations, but they don't have classes yet. And he was a dwarven miner. So he had come to that village at Partridge Quarry a decade before, had basically grown. He was young, still older than the humans that were there, and Meggle, the elf's a little bit older than even him, but they all grew close around the personality of Tom and Birdie, the gravedigger. And he had come to that town as a kind of an envoy from the dwarves in Dungeon Crawl Classics. For the most part, a lot of them mostly are lawful. They're grown up that way. Their society is very forces a order of law on their citizens, and so not often do you find chaotic ones, but you do. But he is lawful, and he had been sent out to investigate new mining opportunities, and he had gone to Partridge Quarry and worked there for a while, reporting back. The thought was that mine was always gonna maybe hit. There was a thought that the dwarves thought that mine at Partridge Quarry might actually hit a bigger vein that they suspected was nearby. Dwarves also in Dungeon Crawl Classics can smell gold and gems from like 100 feet away. They can smell it in the earth and in the ground. And Snope knew that there was more there. Anyway, when he goes back, hitting the rock with the pick just wasn't doing it for him anymore, and he went home to Mount Corpsefoot, named because it very well could have been a giant's foot, a gigantic titan's foot, and dead because it's a gray, nasty looking mountain that stands out solely off in the distance. But Mount Corpsefoot, there was the Mount Corpsefoot dwarves community that lives there. He went back there not long after he got back, and he's just got back into town recently. He's been gone for about 6 months. He's back now with a different kind of goal. He's grown. He's leveled up. He's become level 1. When a peasant goes from or 0 level character in Dungeon Crawl Classics goes from level 0 to level 1, they choose their class. In Dungeon Crawl Classics, though, dwarves are its own class, so he wasn't making any choice. He's a dwarf. That's his class, and it's basically a warrior with perks, with some other perks. He gets to let me switch over to, you get a little bit of view of the character sheet. I guess not a whole lot, but a dwarf gets infravision. He can smell golden gems. He also gets the shield bash as just like a normal thing. During combat, he can take an extra action to bash somebody with his shield. Um, if you didn't know what shield bashing was, the but other than that, he's basically kind of a warrior. And dwarves and warriors get something called the D die. Whenever he rolls to hit, he rolls a 1d3 along with it, and he gets to add that to his roll, both his damage and his to hit roll. So he comes back. He's been training, and we're not quite sure. We're not quite sure what his orders are from his home. He's no longer looking for mines. We'll put it that way. But we're going to explore that. We'll explore that at a later time. But we're not sure why he's back. But he's back now. When he left, though, it kind of devastated Meggle. Meggle is an elf. She was an elf falconer. That was her occupation. She had a falcon named Imperius, who survived magically through this whole adventure that she had. She was kind of devastated. Meggle was maybe the reason why these four were such good friends is because they were all kind of outcasts of their community. Tom was the son of a town drunk, and he was a gambler. And then Birdie was a woman who was a grave digger, and they all kind of bonded together in this. Meggle is a lawful elf. Like how there's not that many dwarves that are chaotic, there's not really that many elves that are lawful. And it's because the elves live so long that they outlive the society's idea of what is lawful and what isn't. They live kind of outside the systems like that, so they tend to be more like neutral or chaotic. But Meggle is a little different. She was lawful, and because of that lawful tendency in her, that allowed her to bond so closely with those other three people. And when Snope left, she was all alone, and she inverted, took this. She kind of sequestered herself away and focused on her birding and stuff, and found that this part of her had opened up. She'd always known had a tendency towards magic. A lot of elves do. Her grandmother had given her, when she had died, a small book that Meggle never dared open because she knew what it was, and her lawful tendencies wanted her to stay in the moment and stay kind of tied to the people who are around her, and she didn't want to be any more different than she was. So, but now with this opening and Snope being gone and her friends gone, she decided to open that book, and there were a few small spells in there that she taught herself, and one of them was Finding Familiar. And she, after many attempts, finally was able to cast it, and what came was a hawk, a large hawk. And at first it was very it came in blood and fury and claws and talons, or not claws but talons, because it swooped in, and there was no room for Imperius anymore, the falcon. This Ormond, her hawk, her familiar, who she knew right away, it killed Imperius and ate it, and there wasn't any way around it. It was a little traumatic for her because Imperius was her friend, but Ormond was there now, and he's a different type of bird where you could look in the eyes of Imperius the falcon and see intelligence. Ormond, she could be right there in its head, and she found that she could that they communicated via telepathy, and he's a very thoughtful, introspective kind of bird, and she can so mechanically she can use him to attack, and he'll do like a 1d3 points of damage, but she can also cast spells through him. So like for things that she has to if she has a spell that she has to touch somebody, like I think Charm Person, which is one of the spells she does have, it might have to have a touch component. I have to check, but let's say it did, she can send the hawk Ormond in, and he could touch, and she could cast through him, and when she does that, she gets a bonus to her spell check. The other couple spells that were in that book were Charm Person and featherfall. So she'd be able to, fall from great heights or charm someone into doing something. And she's over the course of these 6 months, she's been practicing these skills out in the wilderness, going into town very rarely, which the town doesn't miss her with, so she's become a little bit of an anomaly. By the way, these over the course of the 6 months and everything that happened, the town, the things that had been going on from the keep, like there was beastmen were coming into towns and stealing people. Well, they didn't know it was beastmen, but people were being taken away. That all stopped. So stories grew around how that all happened, and there were stories of these elves that had made it all happen, and a lot of people suspected that she was one of the elves that did that, but they didn't pry a lot. But they did stay away from her because they weren't quite sure if she was like powerful. They feared her a little bit because she didn't really talk to them anymore. She used to be, she was nice, she was the elven falconer, but now she was something a little bit different. One thing about going from level 0 to level 1 is that you get more hit points. Yeah, woohoo! Because when you're level 0, you have literally 2 to 3 hit points sometimes. A couple of these characters had 1, so they were dying pretty quick. And so if they lived, it was it was rare. These are the people that lived. So that's Megal. She's very excited. She's very happy to see Snope. They have a very tender reunion, in a very platonic way. She's very eager to show him. She's showing him the things she's learned. She's seeing the change in him. And let's move on to the next person. Gunther. Gunther came into the adventure a little bit later. The groups had kind of gotten their way through a courtyard, fought their way through some beastmen, had gotten deep, starting to go down underground under this keep, and had found this pit of vines and horrifying kind of thing. The whole experience was very, very horrifying. But they had found these barrels, people stuffed in them, and the people were about to be put on these hooks, just hooked as meat hooks, and fed down into this hole where these vine horrors were feeding on them, young ones feeding on them and then growing. So they were basically plant food. And Gunther was one of the persons they found in there, and he and his his friend Poros were both beetles. A beetle with a D, and I had to look it up. A beetle is apparently a church kind of admin, a name for a church admin. That was their occupation. They weren't necessarily preachers or priests or clerics, but they were holy, in the holy business. And Poros was very, very, we must defeat all evil, burn it out, and he had convinced the group. So a lot of these characters, especially the lawful ones, to go down into this pit of vines and try to cleanse the area, and that led to some mess, and it led to him dying, actually. But Gunther, when he gets home, he found his spark. He found that because he had the power, he did help snuff out some evil. I mean, they did succeed in not completely eradicating, but disrupting and. Well, yeah, they eradicated the evil that was at this keep. So he finds that he can actually do that. He's got this power to be able to affect the world in the lawful way, to beat back the chaos, the dark of chaos. So, yeah, so it seemed natural for him. He was a beetle, which means he wasn't. Megal is an elf. Elves are a class in Dungeon Crawl Classics. Dwarves are a class. He gets to choose. He could have went anyway. He could have went warrior, thief, wizard. Of course, he chose to go towards cleric. It just made sense. He started training himself in private. He found himself speaking directly and actually getting a response in ways from his chosen god, which is the god of Gorhan, god of chivalry and valor. He feels he's a little bit of a battle priest, even though he's not very strong. And that might be why he feels that way. He's not very strong, so he's overcompensating a little bit. He's not terribly unagile, but he's not. He's got a 6 in strength. Let's pop over to him. I don't got the he yeah. So anyway, his stats aren't the best. He's got a 6 in strength and a -1 modifier because of that. But his agility is 12. He doesn't hit a modifier, but it's not terrible. Um, but maybe throughout time he'll be able to be a little bit more effective in battle. But he has learned himself some spells. He can cast resist, cold, and heat. Um, he's learned that he can. Oh, hold on, the hounds. The hounds. I gotta pause. I'll be right back. So where was I? Where were I? Where was I? Welcome back to the Liching Hour. Uh, Gunther. So Gunther is our self-styled battle priest. He's been teaching himself more of the of how to training himself with a staff, with a sling. He's found he's got the power to cast um, boons from his god. One being he can detect evil and chaos around him, and then one where he's been afraid to try, but he's very excited to be able to have. It's a spell he thinks can cause people to stop. Basically, he's got paralysis. He can cast paralysis, which is cool. This spell on Dungeon Crawl Classics, he can cast it, and it might cast on his hands, or it might cast on his weapon too. Which I got to look into if he could cast it on his sling and actually throw a paralyzing stone or not. That would be pretty cool. Um, Interesting thing about clerics in Dungeon Crawl Classics, if they don't have healing as a spell, you have it. They have it as an ability. They still have to cast it kind of like a spell. They have to roll to see if it succeeds, but it's not. You can't forget it or anything like that. It's laying on hands. And the cool thing about that's not the interesting, but the interesting part is that he risks disfavor with his god if he casts it on people of the opposing alignment. So that makes what's about to happen a little more interesting because half of the party, a little over half, a little less than half of the party is chaotic. And so we got 3 lawful, 3 chaotic, and 1 neutral person. Now there's a little bit of a risk of when he heals, if he has to heal Pix, but not as bad as healing the other 3 chaotic people. So that's Gunther. He's in the town of Midwater. Nobody else from his town survived. He's on his own and living in a monastery of sort outside of that town. Okay, so now let's move on to Pix. Pix was a beggar in Damp Moss. When the party found her, she was hanging, and this is how horrific the last adventure was for the people who, well, all the way around. She was hanging in a bag on a wall. They were probably gonna either turn her into a beastman or eat her. When they pulled her down, the people from Damp Moss recognized her, but because they recognized her because they'd given her a coin or 2 every time whenever they left the tavern, because she was one of a couple beggars that was like known throughout the thing. She's small. She looked sickly the way she kind of dressed and the way she was, but actually underneath that and underneath a little dirt like kind of thing, she was actually one of the strongest of the whole group. That wiry, strong strength kind of thing, and very agile. So that spark, when she got back to Damp Moss, she kind of reassumed her begging kind of. She was a beggar by occupation, but when she leveled up, of course, it felt natural to go towards thief with her. The title, when you choose a class, you get a title, and the titles change as you go up levels, and the titles are also sometimes based on your alignment. Because she's neutral, her title just ended up being beggar, so it just all kind of fell into place. So Pix came back, reassumed her role as a town beggar, but found that she started realizing her strength and her fleet of foot and how she was able to do so. And she started practicing things that she hadn't even thought she could do. She started messing with locks. She started sneaking around in shadows and coming out of somewhere and be like, "Hey, got a coin?" Freaking people out, but finding out that she's actually really good at it. And then for the first time ever, when a particularly rich man that she knew was rich, who was very stingy, she decided to reach in his pocket. She found that it was pretty easy to get herself a few coins right out of his pocket. So she has been developing these abilities over time. A thief so in Dungeon Crawl Classics, thieves have bonuses to a long list of different type of thiefy type abilities. Backstabbing, sneaking silently, hiding in shadows, disabling traps, forging documents, and handling poison, that kind of thing. Her alignment kind of leans her towards being good at sneaking silently, pickpocketing, climbing surfaces, forging documents, that kind of thing. That's where she gets their biggest bonuses. What else about? Thing about thieves? The thing about Dungeon Crawl Classics is your luck score. It's called burning luck. So let's say you roll and you're a couple behind the goal of what you needed to roll, and you really need to make that you can burn your luck, where you actually take luck points off your primary, not your modifier, but your primary luck score, and it doesn't affect your modifier. But if you get down to 0, you don't have any more. because most classes can't regen um, that luck, but a thief can. And thieves, on top of being able to regen their luck, they it's a regen their luck over a day's time though. Like you gotta like a point a day kind of thing. So it's not like in an adventure you just keep saying you're not a luck battery in that sense. But they got a luck die, kind of like the D die with a warrior, where they roll depending on the level. They'll roll 1 to 3. If she decides she needs to burn some luck, she can, instead of saying I'm going to burn 1 point, she can roll per point. She rolls a 1d3, which is a 2d6, 1d6 divided by 2, and for each point she's going to roll. So she could end up, she says she's spending 1 luck, but actually get 3 points out of it because she rolled a 3. Anyway, so Pix just kind of found herself naturally trying these things that she hadn't even thought she would be able to do, and she's, after 6 months, she's gotten herself really good at it. She actually bought herself, with a little bit of money that she had saved from the adventure, she bought herself some thieves tools, and she just hasn't taken up any allegiance with any thieves and hasn't been really noticed yet, but she's moving her way up, getting herself more and more acquainted with the idea of being that kind of person, being a thief. All right, now that's Pix. Now we're Barrow and Talia. Barrow and Talia, chaotic. Talia was an elven barrister, and her husband Barrow was an elven artisan. Talia had a client who had promised her a treasure map in payment for deeds and services. He disappeared. They thought he had disappeared at this keep. They went looking for him. They did end up finding him, and he joined the party because he told her that someone else that the Beastmen had taken the treasure map. So he went with them. He did not make it, but they did, and they got out. And when they came back to town, unlike everybody else, Talia and Barrow kind of let everybody in the village of Dampmoss know that they were part of the group, or big part of the reason why the keep is not of trouble anymore. Being chaotic, being more chaos oriented, they liked the power. People feared them. They cheered them. They treated them better. Talia got more respect as a barrister. Barrow, some of his art, which was crap from before, was selling better. They started to really enjoy this kind of thing. But it wasn't enough. They too, that spark. At first, it was let's get some. It woken the attention seeking in them, but that wasn't enough. There was kind of like a deep hole that kind of opened up in both of them. Whether it was Barrow wanting more treasure, or Talia finding herself wanting more power. Talia had a client in the 6 months, not too long after they got back from the keep. Talia had a client that hinted that he might have some kind of grimoire of spells. Talia and Barrow had come from a family of elves and had moved to Dampmoss decades before and have lived for, I don't know, 100 years or something, but they hadn't really tapped into that magical side of theirs. But but now Talia was kind of feeling like, well, maybe I could, maybe I am this kind of person. Maybe I want that kind of power. So she browbeat. They finagled. They conned this older man, out of this grimoire of his. And Talia dove into it. Barrow wasn't necessarily interested in that. He wanted more money. He's being art, but he saw how much Talia dove in, and he wanted some, right? Talia, elves start with a special spell that other wizards can start with too, but they, by default, elves start with. It's called Patron Bond, and basically they can do this ritual that will bond them with a patron, with some kind of supernatural kind of thing, whether it's a demon or a just in her case, it was a ancient chaotic wizard named Sezrakan, the Mad Wizard. She was able to connect with him, and now she can call on him for help if she needs. And through the course of that, she can actually learn some special spells, but she hasn't learned those yet. But she has kind of bonded with him, and she did a lot to this, and is very powerful. And this woke up like Barrow's like, "Ooh, I want some of this," and he started getting jealous. He's there's jealousy starting to build up in him because she's found an adeptness with it. She's learned how to summon animals that she's been practicing. Like she'll summon a snake or summon a rabbit and then kill it and for dinner. She's also learned he doesn't. I'll say he doesn't necessarily know it yet, but she's learned how to cast sleep, to make creatures go to sleep, which has got a cool thing. So both of those, Dungeon Crawl Classics has a thing called mercurial effects for spells. Whenever you learn how to cast a spell, you roll on a 1d100 chart, and from then on, whatever you roll is something that happens when you cast that spell, just you. What's cool is for animal summoning, and within 10 feet around her, all the vegetation turns to ash whenever she casts this. So she doesn't do it very often, but there's patches of ash that people find in the village out in the forest that they're like, what happened here? In fact, it's led to rumors of a wyvern or a dragon or something that's populating the Great Woods, and it actually keeps people out of it a little bit. And Talia's been happy because then she can go out and practice that spell. And then, but what she's found with the sleep is something happens. She's not sure what it is because it happens when she's out practicing by herself. But what's actually happening is whenever she casts sleep, this healing wave will burst out of her and heal anybody around her up to 15 feet at 1d6 damage, which is awesome. Not necessarily for maybe a chaotic elven spellcaster, but still pretty cool. Now, Barrow, like I said, he's starting getting jealous, right? She had gotten the grimoire and she didn't want to share with him. And one night he sneaks in and he tears a page out of it, a spell, and he teaches himself the spell, and he also tries to bond with Sezrakan or somebody, but he hasn't been able to succeed at that spell yet. So he's been trying, but he has mastered this one spell, or at least learned it and be able to cast it. It's called Ekam's Mystical Mask, where he can apply a mask to his face that gives him different properties like defense or an attack kind of abilities, those kind of things. And what that does when he casts it is it causes a thunderstrike to happen around him. So not only has there been ash kind of areas appearing, every now and then there's been the townsfolk have been hearing thunder strikes without there being a storm attached in some way, shape, or form. So that's been happening. I didn't get into Megal's things. We'll hit that if she ends up. She's got a couple cool mercurial effects too when she casts Charm Person and Featherfall. Okay, so that was Talia and okay. Not necessarily done with these two. So where we have Talia and Barrow is they're kind of living the high life. Talia's getting more and more deeper into learning the magic side of things. Barrow's kind of hanging on her coattails. She was angry that he stole the spell. She did find out, but she was kind of secretly pleased because she feels like she's kind of got power over him. And he's a big guy. He's a big elf. He's not your Legolas. He's a big dude. Not like big. He's like a fat. He's big. His stamina is 16. He's got good hit points. He's a big guy. He's taken upon himself to be kind of like, if she's gonna be always spell casting, he's gonna be kind of like the strength. So the brawn, even though his strength is kind of low, he buys himself a flail. He's a big tough guy. He's got himself some padded armor. She's got herself some leather armor. They're all kind of. She's got herself a short bow. She's bought this kind of stuff. She has it around the house. She's not sure why. No one's thought, I'm going to go adventuring. No one's thought they're going to take off, but everyone's prepared for it. It's going to happen at some point in their minds. They don't know it yet. Finally, we have Cassius. So Cassius, actually, we can't talk about Cassius without talking about Morg. Morg was the cut purse that had that promised the treasure map to Talia. They found him. As a young guy, he willingly signed up to go with the group. It was in his best interest, and he actually had his treasure map stitched into his cloak. He had it with him. He wasn't worried about losing that. Morg found deep in the slow god pits of the vines I told you about. He found and took this sword. Very magical artifact. When the Chaos Lords who ruled that keep hundreds of years ago were drawing power from around the world in order to take over the world, they had summoned this demon and bound it to this sword. But they found that they couldn't, it wasn't easy to contain it, not contain it, but to control the demon. And so, or take it out. So it was kind of left there, and he found it, and it's the demon's locked in the sword and can talk to you and goads them on, and all it wants to do is cause chaos and kill things. And Morg was chaotic, and he kind of dove right into it. And Morg had quite a good personality, and so the sword, mechanically, the sword, when you want to use it, it sucks personality from you. It's one of your stats. Like, personality is basically your charisma and your wisdom wrapped up in one. It'll suck that out of you, or you can, and unless you roll big, you get to roll a personality check. If you make it, and usually it's pretty big though, it's like 15 for the first level, then you're good. But if you don't, it takes drains them from you, and you regain them. It's not like luck, but it's over days. And so when he'd use it, he was chaotic. When you're a chaotic person uses the sword, it bursts into blue flames. It was very cool. He's like, "Rah!" He's like enraged, and he scared the shit out of everybody else. And but he didn't make it. In the final fight, he ended up getting killed. And Cassius, the woodcutter, picks up the sword. He's chaotic to it. It talked to him, and he picked up the sword. Now Cassius, he was the smartest of the group, but he's also the weakest and had the worst personality score of all. He's only got 4 in his personality. He and another person who hadn't made it, Padre the dwarf, were both from Datmos. They both were. Were they both from Datmos? Yeah, they were. They both had bonded because both of them had very low willpower and personality, and charisma. They had bonded. They were both very ugly people, and had bonded because of that. And Padre was a lawful, and he was chaotic, so there was a little bit of a what the hell is the anyway, two different, two ends of the spectrum. So anyway, Padre had died. Cassius was very smart, but he was also very weak. He had 1 hit point, and it's surprising that he made it. I didn't really pull any kind of punches with him necessarily, but he did make it through the whole adventure with 1 hit point. Anyway, he picks up the sword. He, like I said, is the most intelligent one of the group. He knows that he can't use the sword. The sword talks to him. He wants to use the sword. He wants to be worthy of using the sword. but he knows that he doesn't have the willpower to, that if he did try to power up the sword, that it would probably take over. And he's right, because he's only got 4 personality points, and whenever if he want the first time he uses it, he's got to roll a 1d5, and he could lose up to 5 personality points, which means he would it would take him over, and who knows what would happen. So he's been training. He picked the class of warrior. He fancies himself. He wants to build himself up to be the kind of warrior that can weld the fiend blade. And so he's been doing his best to train. He's not the strongest guy. He's not the fastest guy, but all he's got is his intelligence, and he's using his intelligence to try to change his life. There's been reports on the roads between all the different villages and stuff of a bandit who's been stealing, who's been demanding duels from people, and taking the money of people he beats. Not necessarily killing them, but in some instances people have gotten hurt, and it's Cassius. He's out there working hard to train himself to be a woodcutter. Which is funny, and this didn't really affect this. I mean, I didn't necessarily plan this, but the title for a warrior who is chaotic at level 1 is Bandit, so it worked out pretty good. I think that speed should be maybe not. Maybe it's less because he's got armor. He's got scale armor. He's got himself. He had a bit of money. He had taken a cloak that no one else wanted that he found a good purchaser for in another town. So he had a bit of money. He bought himself some scale mail, a long sword to go along with his the fiend blade, because he can't use the fiend blade yet. It's gonna be fun. Now he's got 13 hit points. So he's got 13 armor class and 13 hit points. So he's no longer the skinny runt guy. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. If he ends up picking the blade up, he could be possessed. So we'll see if during this adventure he finally feels like he's going to probably end up taking it with him. We'll see. All right. So that is our characters. That is where we start. After 6 months. Now 6 months has passed. Snope has returned to town. People have been practicing, and rumors come out and news come out that a traveling circus has come to Dantmoss. And among the traveling circus is they call it the Players of the Starless Sea, and it's supposedly it's a play based on the adventures of them. And what's surprising to people is when Snope hears about it, they say, "Oh yes, you should see it. There's this dwarf who does this and that," and then Megal hears, and there's this elf, and then everybody hears that. Everybody in this party hears that there's somebody who's playing them in this play, and so this triggers something in them. They've got to go see this play. But for some reason, and none of them can explain why, they dress the part. They decide that for each of them, for their individual reasons, all decide that they're going to visit this. They're going to go see this play not as the peasants who drag themselves out of this chaotic mess, but as the newly forged iron that came out of it. So, in other words, Cassius dons his scale armor, heads into town. He straps the fiend blade to his back and a longsword to his side. Megal has her longbow and her mace, and puts on her padded armor. Snope puts on his leather armor, grips his shield, and heads into town. Pix steals through the town in the shadows. Barrow and Talia put on their armor and garb up their weapons, even though Talia, being the barrister, has never been seen in town with a short sword and a short bow, and her leather armor. It's going to be quite a surprise for everybody. And none of them, besides maybe Snope and Meggle, knew that their other ones were going. Snope and Meggle maybe have gone together, but everybody else, they're surprised, but they're not surprised to see themselves, each other, at the fair. As soon as they get there, each of them gets there, they find themselves there with the others. It's been 6 months. All of them can tell, obviously, things have changed, but all of them can see in each other's eyes the same kind of destiny playing out. There's a bit more when these guys were going as zero level, just villagers. There wasn't as much of a distinction between them with their alignments. They were chaotic, they were lawful, neutral, but they were all just regular old folk trying to find their friends, getting through the horrors. But now they're all just a little bit different, and now it's that difference they're noticing. Almost like going from middle school or elementary to high school, and you relook at everybody, and things are just a little bit different now. Gunther, Meggle, Snope, all being lawful, are kind of staring across the aisle at Barrow, Talia, and Cassius, knowing that they're much different people than they are. And then, of course, nearby in the shadows is Pix, observing the whole thing. So, we start this adventure, Intrigue at the Court of Chaos. This group starts this adventure here in the fair as they kind of fall together, start heading towards a stage that they see. They figure the play must be starting there. When they get there, they're surprised because looks like it's a puppet theater and not a big stage. I'm gonna read. Dungeon Crawl Classics has some of the best, awesome written explanations and descriptions, so I'm gonna go ahead and read this because it's fun. A wooden puppet theater has been erected here, its sides decorated with garishly colorful streaks of paint. A scrim of thin, pale cloth hangs behind the theater's proscenium. Proscenium is like the front part of the stage, backlit by an unseen lantern. Standing before the theater is a young, tow-headed lad dressed in ragged garb. Strips of faded, colored cloth are tied about his limbs and torso, giving him the appearance of a maypole left standing long into the winter. An eager smile brightens his narrow face like a rising horned moon. In a voice surprisingly resonant for his thin frame, the youth addresses the audience. Lords and ladies, misses and sirras, gaze upon a tale seldom heard even in the courts and manors of your betters. I bring you the story of daring deeds in far-off places, of great treasures long forgotten, and of benevolent despots eager to reward hired heroes, tales whose origins lie in time before time. With a deep bow, the ragged youth steps to one side, granting you a clear view of the stage. Silhouetted figures appear against the scrim, brought to life by a mixture of light, shadow, and unseen puppeteers. The shadowy actors are grotesque in form, bearing misshapen torsos and an overabundance of limbs, but nevertheless possessing a strange regality. The silhouettes appear to be holding an audience as a prelude to the story waiting to be told. As you gaze upon the shadow puppets, an odd disquiet afflicts you. Our people. Their eyes swim with disorientation. They find themselves growing light in body, our party, and then suddenly experience a falling sensation as if tumbling towards the theater's arc. A bright, mocking laughter rings in their ears before all goes black. The last words they hear are the youth's as he concludes his introduction. My friends, I give you the Court of Chaos. Okay, so the party was watching this puppet show all of the party suddenly find themselves in a completely different place. Okay. Y'all ready for this? Bum, 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 bum. Let's zoom in here, man. Yeah. All right. More reading. Oh no, more zooming. More reading. Your strength. Their strange journey has cast them upon a great. Now pay attention. There will be a quiz later. I'm kidding. I don't do quizzes. That's bullshit. All right. Their strange journey has cast them upon a great misshapen star. No, six. I'm sorry. I'm gonna start over. I want to have the chat up too. Everybody scream out stuff if you want. Okay. I need to move this over. There we go. Actually, let me do it here. Their strange journey has cast them upon a great misshapen six-pointed star formed of darkest obsidian. Above them, the sky spins in a kaleidoscope of nauseous color. Whirls of putrid green, sinister red, depressing blues, and dirty yellow twirl like scrapes of clouds caught in a cyclone. The platform beneath them forms an island adrift on a hellish ocean. Churning waters of blood topped with pink breakers stretch on for as far as their eyes dare gaze. Off in the distance, the ruined spires of an antediluvian cities rise above the surface of the gory sea. From time to time, the wreckage of ancient galleys breaks the waves, thrown about by demonic eddies. Amongst the froth of the tide, they spy rotting faces, screaming with eternal agony. At 5 of the star-shaped platform's points are thrones fashioned from bone, skin, and less identifiable substances. Sitting in each is a nightmare made flesh. Titanic figures, adorned with unholy finery, and bearing horrible guises, stare down at them with expressions that, amongst the more human of those faces, convey a witch's brew of malice, curiosity, and amusement. Standing at the 6th point is a small humanoid figure, dressed in courtly garb of ashen hue, and standing a mere 15-foot tall, compared to the other giants, he observes them placidly. Scattered around the platform itself are groups of lesser creatures, some misshapen and monstrous, others almost painful in their beauty. The attire of both courtiers and slaves is seen amongst them. Standing near them is the youth in tattered motley, his rags whipping about in the screams of the damned that is the wind in this place. He bows to you, 1 foot behind the other, in courtly grandeur. "Sirrahs and miladies," he says with an endearing smile, "welcome. Allow me to present my masters, the host of chaos." So, unbeknownst to our heroes, their actions and the with the Chaos Lord, the reawakened by defeating the reawakened Chaos Lord, has garnered the attention of the Court of Chaos. These great beings that rule that side of the alignment spectrum, that side of the war against law. The youth is staring at our characters. Our characters are a little shell-shocked. They're not quite sure what to do. The first one to react is Pix. She has lived a life of always being the lowest on the totem pole. She understands exactly why the youth near them is coughing. She takes a knee. Talia and Barrow, coming from slightly other end of the spectrum, they're not rich, but they're a little higher up. It takes them a moment to realize those people are used to bowing to power as well. Plus, they're chaotic, so they feel this connection. They both take knees. Um, Gunther, Meggle, and Snope are confused. They're in a hugely horrific place. There's these giant beings staring at them. They do their best to bow. I guess they're like, I like this. It's enough. He uh, the youth nods, and suddenly the hosts speak. And it seems like all of them are speaking, but one of them, uh, actually, just one of them is speaking. Where is it? And which one is it? This being speaks, and at first they can't tell which one it is, and then they turn to one of the ones that's sitting in one of the thrones. It's a this, remember, these are all titanic kind of beings, but this one's dressed in these, like, it's looks like blood stained sackcloth robes. He's got misshapen hands wrapped in bloody rags. His head is covered by the cowl of his robes, showing a black pit where his face should be. The only hints at his physical appearance are a pair of rough and wrinkled trunks that emerge from his hood and end in seven-fingered hands. And he speaks, Magog the Beast. You have been summoned before the Court of Chaos, an honor given to few mortals. Circumstances in the multiverse require the participation of its lesser creatures, and the court has decided you will serve our aims in this end. You are charged with the recovery of a potent artifact of old, known as the Yokeless Egg. Should you succeed in returning this object to the court, know that your services will be well rewarded. The host of Chaos offers a small boon in return, and a token of our esteem suitable for small mortal hearts and minds. Do you accept this charge? A lot of staring at each other. We haven't seen each other in 6 months. It's almost, we know each other. We've been in, not this situation, but we've been in situations kind of like this before. Well, just in a sense that big, huge, and what the F. What the F, really. Anybody watching in chat who has a question for the Court of Chaos, fire it off. Let's ask these guys stuff. I mean, they got it? So they got a job. They want us to do it where they're 18 at the moment, and we probably why should we help? Why should we help you? Gunther says. Gunther, our battle mage. He's this is his destiny. This is why he's been learning these spells and training. This is why he steps forward. He goes, "Why should we help you?" And another one of the Titans speaks. This one is this hideously grotesque being. He could be human. He could be elf. He could be dwarf, because he looks like he's been afflicted with every deformity known to man, and maybe some that are unknown. His limbs are ill-proportioned, his back is hunched, his eyes are milky cataracts. He bears too many fingers on one hand and too few on the other, and drags a club foot. He looks like his foot is clubbed. He's dressed in courtly robes of red, purple, and yellow that accentuate rather than obscure his deformities. And he speaks. Should you not, you will spend eternity as our guests. And he points out at the gory ocean of faces. The sea always has room for more. Threats aside, however, you'll find the host is very generous when rendered service by lesser beings. So we're gonna die if we don't help. At least we got him to say that out loud. Any other questions? Maybe someone in chat's got a question? Mr. Salmon, bring me a dream. Okay. Snope. Snope steps forward. So why do you need us lesser beings? You're so big, powerful. The next one that speaks is this three-armed humanoid dressed in battered armor, his face obscured by a great horned helm. His cape, which drapes around him, is sewn from human faces and draped across his broad shoulders. And he speaks, "We are the antithesis of our cousins, as they are to us. Neither we nor our pledged agents can survive long on the plains of law. In this matter, we must rely on mortal servants with souls as yet undevoted wholly to one side or the other. You mortals' curious and most delightful gift of free will makes you immune to the wards that prevent us from acting directly." But, and Snope says, no, Gunther. Gunther cuts in, but I'm a devoted servant of law. Newell, the Prince of Ruins, the one who is speaking with the cape of human faces, laughs, which curdles the blood in all of their bodies. Are you truly? How quaint is the concept of devotion in you mortals. We assure you that you know little of what true servitude means. Even those of you who pray to the gods of law are no more than afterthoughts in the schemes of the cosmic. Tell us, do your gods always answer your prayers? Have you never cried their names and found them unresponsive, even when in the most desperate of straits? What you mortals call faith is nothing more than lighting a candle against the eternal darkness of the multiverse. And candles can be snuffed out, or even better, replaced with more dependable illumination. Gunther raises his head high and says, "My God always responds." This gets a chuckle out of Newell. But the other ones aren't so sure. Snope and Meggle exchange glances. Pix is looking around. She's looking at all the different legs and the things and seeing if there's anywhere she can hide or any kind of escape. That's when Barrow, he looks at Talia and he speaks up in a little bit of a cracked voice, but he gains his, he's the tough guy. What are the rewards you're speaking of? This one, the voice comes from the one that all of them were avoiding looking at because it's the most foreign looking of these lords or host. Because this one resembles nothing more than a tremendous bloodshot and dual-lobed eyeball perched comically on a pair of bird-like legs. It never blinks, and it just stares past them, and it could feel like that it's just staring off into time and space when it's looking at them. And it says, "Firstly, we will consider ourselves owing you a small debt of gratitude. Should the time come that you require the assistance of the most powerful forces in the cosmos, we shall attend to that need and consider our debt repaid. Secondly, since the desires of mortals are little things to the minds of the host, you shall each receive a small gesture of our thanks in the form of a stone that warps fortune in your favor, one of the few chaos stones remaining in the multiverse." Everybody looks at each other. Snope, Meggle, Gunther. Gunther speaks up. "And if we refuse this stone?" And that's when Barrow and Talia look at each other. And Talia speaks up. Not all of us. Um, this man does not speak for all of us. Gunther looks and it kind of takes a little wind out of his sails a little bit. He wasn't expecting that kind of thing, but that settles that. Okay, what's cool that makes everybody kind of look at each other and realize that feeling they had when they first met at the fair, where they're like, oh, something's different now, is even more accentuated now. Now they're going. That's when Snope, Meggle, and Gunther look and they realize they're with three other chaotic people, um, and that this is going to be a challenge. We'll put it that way. Other questions? Let's ask some questions about the quest itself. Uh, Talia, with the momentum, goes, "What is this yolkless egg?" She's the barrister, so she's the devil's in the details for her. The one who speaks up this time is the fifth one, the fifth and final. Well, no, not the fifth and final one. The fifth one of the Chaos Horse, the fifth one that is sitting in a throne, is this beautiful humanoid female, 2 weeks dead. Her flesh is corrupting with decay, maggots play in her hair and empty eye sockets, and her fingernails are as long as claws. She's dressed in a rotting wedding dress, and a hank of coarse rope is wrapped around her bruised and chafed neck. She is Dizhali, the strangled bride. She speaks. "Hey, Spark, of what is the yolkless egg? Is what Talia. This is what they want them to steal from the plane of law." I don't think he actually said that they're going to go to the plane of law, but the idea is they need to steal it from, yeah. What is the egg? "A spark of primordial chaos left behind by the tempest of disorder that was the cosmos before life was less than a distant dream. It is our birthright, and chaos always claims its own." "And where is this egg?" "Housed in a repository known as the Cataphract, situated on the plane of law, and undoubtedly defended by all manners of sentinels and safeguards." Gunther regains his courage. "Wait, you want us to go into the plane of law and steal from them? Are you..." He can't get crass. He can't get past that. They just stare. The silence is deafening. It's just the crack. He says this and waves. The court falls silent, even the little ones, and all they hear is the screams of agony from the faces and the blood in the water and the gory water, which kind of help accentuate the answer. And he looks around for help from Meggle and Snope, and even Pix. And then Meggle steps up. Says, "How do we know you're not going to betray us?" Because because they're chaotic, right? They're chaos. This time Magog speaks up again. The beast in the sack robes, the one with the trunks coming out. "Simple avarice usually suffice amongst you mortals. Acquire the egg, and not only will we return you to your natural plane, you go with gifts and the goodwill of the Court of Chaos. Cross us and know that no power in the multiverse will spare you from retribution." That didn't really answer the question, though, did it? No, it didn't answer the question at all. Basically, it said, it doesn't matter if we betray you, don't betray us. All right. Do we have any other questions? Anybody in chat got a question? They want to ask the Court of Chaos. Magog speaks up after everyone's kind of staring at each other, not knowing quite what to do now. We understand discord and confusion like no other beings in the multiverse. We know your mortal minds reel from the task set before you. As we are not wholly unkind in our affections, we generously grant you the opportunity to discuss among yourselves the offer we extend. You shall have time to debate the benefits of serving us and to contemplate the consequences of refusal. Pointing to one of the smaller spires protruding from the ocean of blood around you, you have until the waves cover the tower of Yellorin the Mad once more, a full night by your reckoning. After that time we shall summon you once more to demand an answer. Until then you are our guests, and no harm shall come to you. You have our pledge on that. Our herald shall see you to your quarters. Decide wisely. This fiery ring of fire ignites on the platform, and just beyond it, all around them, with these titans still up in the distance, past that. But right here is an opulent room. It's like a portal to an opulent room, equal to something at the best looking inn room they've ever seen. Thick rugs line the full floor. The walls are polished mahogany. A welcome fire burns in the hearth. A large table is surrounded by a number of chairs equal to theirs. There's 7 chairs. The boy, the youth, goes, come, enjoy. And he waves them on. And the characters go, because there's no hesitation. Whatever gets them off this crazy nightmare kind of place that they're in right now, they head in there, and sure enough, as they step through, it's real. And as they go in, the burning fire kind of disappears, and they are in this new place. Beautiful table. They all sit down, and all their favorite meals are brought out. Food's brought out. Kind of got the time now. For a brief moment, they all let, it takes a minute, but they all let what just happened, they set it aside to eat and reacquaint a little bit. Pix brings up a few things about the adventure they had, a few in-jokes, a few things that to remember. This sparks a few moments of talking about people to remember. Padre, Morgue, even though he had that sword, which everyone nervously notices that Cassius has on his back, that every now and then the sword pings other people going, hey, why don't you take me? Why don't you take me? Kill all everybody. It'll be fun. Great fun. Talk a little bit. There starts to be a defrosting, and then that's when Gunther speaks up, and he's like, what is the consensus of what we need to do? I for one think we need to fight. Talia speaks up. That is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. We are dealing with powers completely beyond our understanding. But, and Gunther says, and interrupting her, but the Chaos Lord at the end, when we're underneath the keep, and the sea, we defeated that. There's more. We are more powerful than and than you may think. And Talia says, we were incredibly lucky. Thanks to some deviousness, which she tips a cup to Cassius, because Cassius was the one who talked them all into taking a certain set of robes and some of the bloody furs, which allowed them to infiltrate the tower which would not have been nearly as easy without that. She says and Gunther keeps nodding. Right, right. We have the tools here. We can and then Talia Barrow slams his hand on the table. You're not listening. We are in a place that's way beyond our abilities, incredibly beyond our abilities. We're not even on our same world anymore. He tries to say reality. These people don't have any concept of being in different dimensions or other. This is like we're in a dream, is how they feel. You saw that they're just going to throw us in. Plus, there's treasure. They're going to give us things. What is the problem? We go. This is Barrow talking. He's the chaotic Elvin Artisan, and Talia's nodding, and he's liking the fact that he's got her nodding, and because now he gets to play the barrister a little bit. He said, how hard can it be to steal from law? He feels stupid saying that, but we get in. All of what you just said, all the abilities that we have could be better suited to getting the object they need and getting back and getting our reward than trying to fight these giant gods, because to them they're gods, and it's got to be easier to use our abilities to than to achieve the objective than to fight gods. Snope and Megal look at each other, and then Snope speaks up. I, for one, do not cherish do not like the idea of stealing, especially from the lords and gods of law. If these gods of chaos exist, these beings, this host of chaos, there must be a host of law. I do not want to steal from them. Maybe once we're on the plane of law, we could seek help from them. And Megal starts nodding, and Gunther, his eyes light up. He's like, yes, we can do that. Talia, Barrow, Cassius has been very silent, and Cassius then speaks up. And he's always been the smartest one, and everybody gets really quiet when he speaks. And he says that we're but playthings to this host, and no doubt even to the host of law. I have no doubt in my mind that even if we did get help from the host of law, then that help wouldn't necessarily protect us after. And to offend these great beings at some point is going to be a worse fate than just trying to accomplish what the task they set before us. But what if we don't finish that test and we've done the exact what you've talked about, but we've offended the law? Cassius, I agree. We are in the worst of positions. We spend an eternity of pain and anguish. That's obviously a consequence. Or we take a chance to not. If we go to the plane of law and then try to search, we may not find them. That opens up a new realm of odds and problems. This conversation goes on. Does anybody in chat have any kind of points they want to bring up that they think anybody should bring up or that we should discuss about this? Okay. I like that. I like that too. No one said anything. I'm just pretending. Oh yeah. I like what that guy said. Yep. So the conversation goes off into the middle of the night. And deep into the night, people start excusing themselves. There's bedrooms for everybody. Pix is the first. She goes to bed. Talia goes to bed, but Barrow's got some drink in him, and he likes arguing with Gunther, and she goes to bed. Then something weird happens. The ones that are out there, well, this happens to everybody, but for setting the scene, the ones that are in the inn, for each one of them, everyone else seems to stop in mid whatever, mid speaking, mid eating, mid drinking. Everyone seems to stop. For each one of them, this happens. And each one gets a visitor. So, for example, Barrow, everybody stops around him, and then a voice speaks. For Snope, everyone stops, and a voice speaks. Each one of these characters is going to get a visitor. Who? Who are they getting visits from? Let's see. Let's start with Barrow. Barrow hears the soft, feminine voice that he'd heard at the Court of Chaos. He turns to look to where it came from, and there's that drowned bride, and as beautiful as ever, even though she is dead. And she looks in his eyes, and you don't think you're as good as her, do you? And he gets a little, she's like looked right into his heart. And he says, I am. She says, you may be. I can tell you how you can be, for sure. He sets down his mug. He looks around, everybody's frozen. It's like, what? How? She says, bring me the egg. Bring me the egg before coming to the court when you have it. And not only will I give you, and I will give you what you seek. I will give you what you need to show her that you are as good, maybe even better. What do you say? So, Barrow's personality is a 7. He's not very good. And like I said, his personality is kind of like charisma and willpower kind of put together. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, please. I don't have this preordained. I mean, obviously a lot of the other story felt like I got preordained, but I'm kind of just riffing it all right now. So speak up if you disagree or agree or think it should go a different way. But I think Barrow is going to go, okay. He's going to nod. Even though the reward itself is already kind of dictating to him that he's got to keep this secret to him, to everybody. He can't even be telling Talia about it. But I think he would do it. I think we've set him up. His character, the things about him are set up to do this. He agrees. Now, we move to Talia. Talia went to sleep. And Talia is dreaming. And in her dreams, she's aboard a... She's drowning. She's drowning, and she's drowning in that bloody water, and but suddenly the drowning stops, and she can breathe, and she's in this kind of like bubble, and outside the bubble, floating in the water with the beautiful hair and the rope, is the drowned bride. And she speaks to Talia, and she says, you know they call him the Mad Mage for a reason, right? And and she's speaking of Sezrekan, the patron, Talia's patron. And Talia does nothing more than nods. Of course I do. And Dazali says, but you do look like the woman who can um, become one of his peers. And Talia nods again. Little part of her, getting warm by being told this. And Dazali goes, I can give you something to help you get more respect from your patron. And Talia goes, what exactly? Oh, I have items, very powerful ancient items that I have just laying that I can give to you that I wouldn't even miss. And Talia goes, what would I have to do for you? And Dazali says, bring me the egg. Bring me the egg before before you go back to the court with it, and I will give you this boon. If it's an artifact you want, or perhaps it's more magic that you want. That's what gets Talia a new spell, or if it's more powers. We'll just say spells. It seems like such a crude word to do in the fiction, right? But that's what she's telling her, and that's what really gets Talia excited. She wants more power. She wants more spells. That's what's going to get her the respect of Sezrekan. She's going to say, Dazali says, what do you say? Talia, at this point, there isn't it's not like love that bonds her with Barrow anymore. She's diving into the deep side of power. It's nice to have Barrow around because she feels above him. So she's not even thinking about him. She's going to say yes. So Talia and Barrow have both promised Dazali that they're going to bring her the egg. Whichever one does is going to be is going to get the boon. Will they tell each other? I'm 100% sure they're not going to tell each other. Okay. So let's move to Cassius, our woodcutter warrior. He's been sitting at the table, sipping his beer. Doesn't want to get too drunk because who knows, if he got too drunk, he might pull out the fiend blade. And he took the fiend blade and put it into his room. He doesn't have it out there, but he's afraid he'll get too drunk and want to do anything. So when everybody stops, he hears the voice though. He hears the deep, authoritative voice of Newell, the Prince of Ruins. And this is that guy with the huge horned helm and the cape full of the cape that's made from human faces. He hears that voice. He looks over, and in the corner he hadn't noticed before, almost filling the whole corner, sitting at a table by himself, is Newell. And he waves him over. Come over, friend. So Cassius comes over and he sits down. He goes, I couldn't help but notice your fine blade. And Cassius looks down at the one on his side and he goes, no, not that. Not that blade at all. And Cassius nods. Newell says, I have a sword much like that one that may not even be as powerful as that one. It's aided me many times in the great wars against law and great wars across the universes. And Cassius is listening carefully. I see in your heart the heart of a warrior. Cassius nods. Or doesn't nod, he just stays silent. this whole time, Cash has been thinking about what does this guy want, because he's not dumb. But we start getting into this territory, and it starts. Things start heating up with Cassius because he likes the idea that he's this warrior, and Newell says there are more battles to be won, great battles for someone with a destiny like yours across many of the multiverses. Cassius is listening now. And he's talking. He's not letting himself forget that he's got the audience of a god in his mind. And this god is telling him that there are other battles that he could be destined to be a part of. He's already told him he's got a sword that's more powerful than something that he has. And Newell stops, and he looks at him, and it takes a little while, almost to the point, but Cassius is smart. He knows he's going to keep his mouth shut, because Newell's playing a game to see if he'd speak, but he's also kind of getting a judge of him. And finally Newell speaks and says, you would make a good general. You're smart. I can tell how smart you are, cool-headed. You would make a great general. A general who'd lead the beasts of chaos with that flaming sword, the head of the army, the host of chaos behind you. That would be quite a sight. Well, what do I need for this? Cassius blurts it out, feeling like a school kid. Newell says, bring me the egg. Bring me the egg before you return to the council. And I will promise you a special place in my army, leading. Okay. So, chat, what do we think? Does Cassius say yes? Is this something Cassius is going to want to do? I'm going to go with a yes. Yeah, I think Cassius, he's in a weird position. It's just him and this demon sword. Nobody else can really. He sits outside of all these people because none of them can understand the kind of relationship he has with this beast. I mean, he might be able to actually be worthy of the blade if he's leading this army of chaos. So Cassius doesn't even think that much about it, and he nods. And boom, Newell's gone, and he's back to the party. Or the end. All right. Pix went to bed. Pix is dreaming. Let's see here. Pix is dreaming, and she's slinking through the streets of a city that she doesn't know. Biggest city she's ever been in. And the shadows are everywhere. It's almost like the whole place is shadows. And she's walking among people that can't see her. And then she feels an eye upon her. And she turns, and there's one eye upon her. The big one that's on top of a couple of bird-like legs. And it's just staring at her at the end of another alley. And it speaks. Hello, little one. And she's not afraid of it. She was the only one that wasn't too afraid of the eye. Maybe because it wasn't looking right at her at the time. But now she feels like it's okay that it sees her. I see you have I see you are learning. No, he doesn't say learning. I see you are finding your gifts. I see you are finding your gifts, little one. She's silent. You have lots of gifts. Many you have not yet found. I can help you find those gifts. She looks at him. She's silent. Like what? She says. He's like, I can give you gifts, more gifts, to make you even better at what you're doing. How would you like to see in the dark? Her eyes get wide. Imagine if she could see in the dark. If not only could she part of the shadows, but actually be a shadow. Or what if I gave you a way to see into the hearts or stores of men? So you could see what kind of information, or not information, it's crude, into the hearts and stores of men, yeah. Why? What? Why would you do that? What? For what? She says. Bring me the egg. We knew this was coming, right? Bring me the egg. Bring me the egg before I go. What would our little neutral Pix do? She's a beggar. She came up in the streets. No real connection to any of these people. She's a thief. She's going to say yes. She says yes. So right now we have 4 deals. 4 deals. The eye leaves her and she goes back to sleep. Sleeps great the rest of the night. Let's go with Gunther. All right. Gunther, he did not go to bed. He is still out there. Everyone stops. The scene stops. He's putting down his drink, and he's just noticing that when a waitress comes up. She goes, "Would you like another drink, sir?" And he says, "Well, I'm almost not." And he looks up and he sees someone he didn't. He's like, "Were you our waitress?" Everyone else has stopped, and she is this. She's quite comely, but she's got her skin is glimmering brass in hue, and although she's got soot stains and ugly bruises and welts, she's still pretty underneath. But she doesn't look like she's from any world he's ever seen before, and she's dressed like a serving girl. But she says, "It's good to have found someone like you." He is, "Well, thank you. Someone like who?" She says, forgive me, I am Lexilia. I am not from here," she says. Whoa, he looks around and, whoa. See, Gunther isn't terribly dumb. He's like, what do you... He senses something about her. Let's roll. We haven't rolled tonight. He's going to roll a intelligence check. He rolls a 17. So he feels the lawfulness from her. He says, "How did you get here?" She goes, "I've been in hiding. I am here on orders." He goes, "Oh, you know what we're being asked to do?" She says, "Yes, I do, and I cannot interfere, but I can offer you protection if..." And she stops, and he goes, "If what?" "If you deliver the egg to me before it goes to the host, I can take it back to the host of law, and we will forgive you, and I can promise you protection for you and your friends." And she says friends in a weird way. Like she doesn't necessarily, there's not a whole lot of weight to it. He nods. "It's going to be hard. They're afraid for their lives, rightfully so. We do not want to offend the host of chaos. Alexei Leah smiles, and well, she says, well, you don't want to offend the host of law, do you? He goes, yeah, no, I do not. We do not. I think Gunther is going to agree with her. He's going to agree. He goes, yeah. Gunther is going to say, if I cannot convince them to do what is right, I will take it upon myself to do what is right. And she looks at that and she goes, I know. And then she swishes away, and everything goes back. So we got 5 deals. Now let's go to Snope. Snope finds himself also everything stopped, and he hears the voice, and it is also the voice of Newell, Prince of Ruin, the man with the gentleman with the cape, who he's standing over by the hearth when he speaks. He motions Snope over. Snope's curious about this guy, and he does understand that this chaos god has stopped, has frozen time, and wants to speak with him. So he's not going to say no. He walks up. He looking into the fire, keeping his cool, not wanting to stare at this guy, and Newell, he says, just starting out, I see. I was a young dwarf just starting out myself once. Well, wait, he's not a dwarf. He's just a humanoid. I was young starting out once. A millennia ago. Snope just stares in the fire. I noticed the long sword at your side. Was that even dwarven made? This almost makes Snope look up, but he keeps staring in the fire. He grunts. Newell goes on. You deserve a better blade, my friend. And that shield. A better shield. Maybe one with some spikes in the front. Enchanted. Yes. You look like a kind of man with a kind of dwarf with a strong arm. You could use a shield that fends off evil. Snope looks up at him and looks down. Didn't quite expect that out of him. Why don't we outfit you to look more like your station? What do you want? Snope says. I like your directness. I want this foolishness with the egg to be over and soon. And I think, looking at you and your group, I think that your party, your friends, I think you're the right people for the job. I want to make sure that you're rewarded correctly for it. Rewards can get lost when there's a committee rewarding all of you. I can ensure that you get what you deserve. Snope grunts. You could be outfitted better. You could go back and you could truly accomplish much sooner your true goals, he whispers. Snope looks up at him. He knows something about Snope's true, which we don't even know. So Snope stares in the fire. He goes, what is it that you want? Bring the egg to me, he says, Newell says, before you bring it to the court. What about my friends? We can discuss rewards for your friends. Absolutely. But this is for you. No, he doesn't say that. He doesn't discuss. He says, like I said, rewarding a group is not as rewarding for the individual. I can make sure that you are taken care of. Snope, he's not dumb. He knows exactly what's going on. He feels he's the first one out of all this group to go, he's just doing this to mess with us. He wants me to betray my friends just to do it. And he stares long into the fire, long enough to where Newell, the Prince of Ruin, finally speaks up and goes, "What say you, dwarf?" And he comes up from the fire. He blinks at Newell. He says, "I'm going to have to pass." "What? You don't say no to me." I believe I just did. And then Snope turns around and walks away. And Newell's gone. And finally, we have Meggle. Meggle goes to sleep. No, she doesn't sleep. She hears the voice. She hears the voice of okay. Oh. No. Meggle was just about to go to bed. She's has just finished up. She's like, I can't eat anymore. She stands up, and when she stands up, everyone's frozen, and she hears a voice. She's like, "My, you're a pretty one." And Meggle turns, and it's the Zali, the strangled bride, and she's sitting at a table, actually, her rope hanging around that thing, and on her hand is Ormond, the hawk, Meggle's hawk, and she's talking to it. "You're a beautiful creature," she says. Meggle walks over, and Tazali's talking to the hawk still. She goes, so deep the waters run with this one," she says. And it like kind of looks at her, and she says, "You two," and then now she stares at Meggle, "you two are separate now, even though you share a bond. I can make that bond even more," she says. And this is speaking a little bit right into secret desires of Meggle, that she loves being able to talk to her hawk, but she can't fly or see through its eyes necessarily, or can she? She can't. She can see through its eyes, but she can't get the feeling of flying, and she desires that. And her imagination kind of lights up a little bit. She says, "I can give you this. I can make you both. I can bring you both together in ways you've never imagined." Meggle fights back this kind of like burst of imagination, and she goes, "Why?" And Zali looks at her, "Because you'll help me. You're the only one who can." "What do you mean?" Meggle says. "Out of all of you, you're the only one with the steel, the talons, to do what's right, to help me. The court wants to, she says, I am outside of the court. They seek to shut me out. If you can bring me the egg, then I can reestablish my place in the proper hierarchy of the court." I will no longer have to be the outsider. When she says outsider, this is a word that pops up in Megal's mind a lot over the years. So it speaks right to her, but in just as a way that it does that, it also triggers some distrust. Like it triggers questions. It doesn't set. It doesn't. The hook doesn't set. So Megal goes, "You want me to bring you the yolkless egg?" And Dazali says, "Yes. Bring it to me before the host. You bring it to the host, and I will reward you with a bond you could never achieve without." And Megal says, "You want me to betray my friends?" And Dazali looks down at the bird, and she says, "You will all be returned afterwards to your lives. No worse of our wear." She looked back at her. That wasn't really that great of an answer. Megal knows at this point she's dealing with forces that are much more complicated than maybe she can deal with, and she's not dumb. She's actually pretty smart. So her heart's beating. Anybody in chat, speak up if you disagree. But I'm thinking her heart's beating. Her mouth gets dry. She doesn't necessarily want to say what she's about to say, but she says, "No, thank you." And Dazali says, "That's a shame. Such a beautiful creature." "Are you sure?" she says, and her hand kind of closes around a little bit on the eagle or the hawk, and it cries out a little bit. And that steals Megal. And Megal says, "Yes, I'm sure." And then boom, it's over. Everyone goes to bed after their little thing, and in the morning they've woken up, and okay, so there's a part of this where because Megal and Snope said no, that Lexalia, the maid that came to Gunther, visits them as well. Visits them together in a dream, because Megal and them go to sleep. She visits them in a dream, and she tells them what she tells Gunther, and she tells them that they should go ahead and get the egg, because it will wait. The egg was a artifact that was hidden away a long time ago, and the law, they've kind of slackened because they kind of forgot about it, and it needs to be remembered. And she thinks that if it's stolen, that it'll make them remember. They'll stir up there and make them remember and wake up a bit in that kind of part of the battle. So she sees it as a good thing in the long run, as long as they return it to her afterwards, and then they will do whatever they can to protect them from the chaos. And she assures them that the memories of the Lord's House of Chaos aren't as long as they intend. There's so many other things going on. They're small kind of things. So Megal and Snope both tell her that they'll think about it. And in the morning, they're rushed out. The inn when they open up their bedroom door, they step out into the six, all at the same time, to that horrific place with the lords of the host of chaos sitting around them, who demand to know what they want, what they're going to do. The party all look at each other. They all nod at each other. And then Gunther steps up. Talia goes to step up, but the Gunther steps up and he says, We will fulfill your geas, he says, proudly, with his head high. And the host says, You have chosen well. Let's go. Let us get you on your way. And the young lad who's still there, he goes, Come here. He snaps his fingers. He goes, bring them their equipment. And these servants and these people that are kind of hanging around all of a sudden start appearing and come up, and everybody gets this ebony weapon that they're told that are chaos weapons that can only be they're only capable of slaying any guardian on the plane of law, but they're a little use on the mortal realm. And they need these weapons for what they're got to go through. Apparently, let's assume that Snope and Meggo, when they got visited by Lexalia, the law, they asked her a little bit about what they're about to go to, and there's going to be a bunch of tests in the cataphract in order to find this the yolkless egg. So they know that they're going to be performing some kind of test to get through it. So this is where we're going to leave the adventurers tonight. No rolling. This is all story, but this is all set up. Next time, next Friday, we're going to get into. They're going to visit the plane of law, and they're going to be starting going through a bunch of these tests and stuff, and trying to find the yolkless egg. And we'll start seeing how maybe some of these stories start playing out from the betrayal standpoint. When everybody has their ebony weapons, the host bids them good fortune, all of them together. And then there's this thunderbolt, boom, and the party is gone. Off to the plane of law. All right, thank you for tuning in for the first adventure of our first level adventure. First episode of our first level adventure. This has been Intrigue at the Court of Chaos. Please follow, subscribe, do whatever you do on this certain wherever you're watching me. And this will be next Friday at 12 a.m. the Liching Hour. And for that, till that end, I say, Viva la Dungeon! And then I stop it somehow. How do you stop it? Stop this thing. Go ahead, stop it. Stop. Stop.